In Season 6, Episode 2 of The Curse of Oak Island, Dave Blankenship and the Lagina brothers head to the Alberta College of Art and Design in Calgary, Alberta. There, they meet with gemologist and master goldsmith Charles Lewton-Brain and with his assistant, Axel Blad. Lewton-Brain examines the gemstone from the brooch found on Oak Island's Lot 8 the previous season and concludes that it is indeed a garnet, in accordance with an earlier evaluation. He then examines the red jewel from the brooch discovered the previous episode, on Lot 21, and concludes that it is made of colored glass. He claims that this ornament was made by hand and suggests that it could be up to 500 years old. When Rick Lagina inquires as to the source of the gem's red color, Axel Blad explains that formulas for making red glass were carefully guarded trade secrets, which were reportedly lost and found throughout history. This allusion to trade secrets prompts the narrator to remind us of the theory that the Order of the Rosy Cross, a secret 17th century fraternity, is behind the Oak Island mystery. The gem's red color suggests that the artifact was probably intended as an imitation ruby or garnet. This supposition, coupled with the fact that the glass was cut with facets, indicates that the ornament was probably crafted no earlier than the 1380s. Although Persian jewelers have been cutting facets on gemstones as early as the 11th century AD, gems in Europe and the Near East were usually polished rather than cut prior to the 15th century. After French and German gem workers developed advanced facet cutting techniques in the 1380s, jewels like rubies, emeralds, and sapphires began to be fractured along the lines of cleavage. As the glass jewel in the Lot 21 brooch appears to be a knockoff gemstone with facets, it seems unlikely that it was crafted prior to these innovations. After examining the stones, Lewton-Brain turns his attention towards the metal setting of the Lot 21 brooch. He quickly observes that a wire which encircles the brooch's bezel bears spiral markings, indicating that it was crafted using an ancient wire-making technique called block twisting. The goldsmith tells the treasure hunters that this method of wire making fell out of fashion in the 1340s, being replaced by another method involving draw plates. When Marty Lagina asks Lewton-Brain whether the artifact was potentially crafted prior to 1340 AD, the goldsmith nods his head. Block twisting, the method by which this wire was fashioned, was employed as early as classical antiquity. This technique involves hammering a metal ingot into a thin sheet, cutting a narrow ribbon from this sheet and twisting the ribbon at both ends as tightly as possible. The twisted cord is then rolled between two planks of hard wood until it forms a smooth wire. Although the spiral-shaped grooves resultant of the twisting process can be completely removed during the rolling process, some vestige of these markings usually remains. During the Middle Ages, one particular method of wire making eclipsed all others. This method, called drawing, involves pulling a metal rod through a series of cone-shaped holes of steadily decreasing diameter, which are bored through a plank called a draw plate. In this episode, Charles Lewton-Brain identifies the 1340s as the decade in which the transition from more primitive wire-making techniques to the draw plate method was completed. At first glance, the presence of a block-twisted wire on the Lot 21 brooch presents us with a bit of a problem, as it indicates that the artifact was crafted prior to the 1340s. This conflicts with the presence of the glass gem, which, as we have established, indicates that the brooch was made after the 1380s. The problem resolves itself when we consider that it would certainly be possible for post-medieval jewelers to craft their wires using more ancient methods like block twisting. Resorting to these methods might even have been necessary in cases in which the wire maker lacked a draw plate. Although the spiral wire on the Lot 21 brooch may be more consistent with pre-medieval jewelry, it by no means eliminates the possibility that the artifact was crafted in more recent times. The opposite cannot be said for the glass jewel, however. Discounting the possibility that its maker was ahead of his time, this ornament was probably not made before the 1380s, when the faceted gemstones of which it appears to be an imitation were uncommon. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to read a more in-depth analysis of Season 6, Episode 2 of The Curse of Oak Island, please check out the link in the description.